So after we made some data declarations and defined some own local types, let's go ahead and take a look how we can define global types. So I will open a new session and go to the development tools and the workbench and in the development folder. And as I already said, here are the most important applications for SAP developers. One is also the ABAP Dictionary. So I will go in and here you see the initial screen of the ABAP Dictionary. The ABAP Dictionary centrally describes and manages all the data definitions. So all the database tables, the views, the structures, the table types, and so on, many other objects are maintained here. And the important thing is all the objects which are here created and which are in the ABAP Dictionary are can be used in the whole SAP system. So all the other repository objects like reports, classes, function modules, and so on can use this object here. So what we define here is really globally in the whole SAP system accessible and usable. The other important thing about the dictionary is that this graphical user interface looks always the same regardless of which underlying database we have. As you may know, there are multiple supported databases which can be underlying of the NetWeaver application server. So you can have an Oracle or an MaxDB or another databases as the underlying database of your application server. Usually, if you want to create a database table, you have this database specific syntax to create such tables. But in the SAP, you have this ABAP Dictionary which does this for you. So you don't have to write these data definition statements on your own. The ABAP Dictionary does it for you. You have this graphical user interface where you can maintain your database tables, for examples. And that's the pretty good thing. I think so you don't have to write your data definition statements on your own. So let's have a look how this looks like when we use the ABAP Dictionary. So the first thing I want to show you is how you can define one single elementary type like our material number. As you already know, we used here an predefined elementary data type like C for a character in the length of 15. But in SAP, it's also possible to define such a single field, as a single character field in the length of 15 globally in the ABAP Dictionary, and everyone can use it. For example, when we jump back to the ABAP Dictionary and search here for data elements, I will open the value help and search for data elements. So I will don't restrict my my search. I will just select the whole bunch, and I got 200 restricted hints. There are many more, and there are a lot of data elements. Yeah, the one I want to show you, the name is material number, and I will select it and go into the display mode. And here we are, that's the data element, call mat in nr, and we got here a description. And as you can see, we got here also a domain and the data type character with a length of 18. So the whole thing is maybe you now wonder why you have one single field defined globally and you have multiple of it. I will explain it to you shortly. The first thing I want to explain is this domain here. When I will copy the name and open a new session, also go to the ABAP Dictionary, which is the transaction code SE11, and enter here the domain name, which is this one here, and go into the display mode. So now we're here in the display mode of our domain. As you can see, this screen looks a little bit different than the screen of the data element. So I will jump back, and as you see, we're here in the data element. We got the tabs are a little bit different than from the domain. The domain, which is really the smallest unit which you can define in an ABAP dictionary, is only a technical description of a field. So you only got, you say here just which type it is and which, how many characters it has. Maybe you could also here restrict the values. You can say here there are only fixed values allowed, or there is a value table, which means only the entries in this value table are allowed for these single fields. And that's really just a technical description of the domain. Now I want to show you where this domain is used in the system. So I will press this button here. There's an where used list, and this button here will show me a list of all the other objects where my domain is used. So let me show you this one. I will only search for data elements. And as we can see here, we got a list where this material, the domain material number is used in which elements. We got 11 hits. And as you can see, we got here also our data element, this one here, which we have seen before. But the interesting thing about that is, for example, we also got another data element which is called service number. So as you can see, this technical domain, which is only 18 characters long, is used in several data elements, and these data elements are used in a different business context. So we got, for example, multiple business applications, and in one business application we got here this material number, which is technically the same field, but it has here the name material number, and in another business application it's a service number. So that's a typical thing about SAP. We have different descriptions for the technical fields because of the business context. And therefore, that's also the reason why we define data elements and why we work with data elements. So this single domain, the technical description of it, is used in multiple domains, in multiple data elements. And these data elements here, I will go back. As you can see, we're here now in the data element. We are used here the domain material number. And the technical description of this domain is used here for this data element too. The reason why we also use the data elements is you can define a short description, but also you can define some field labels in different length. So we got a short length, medium and long length, and also a heading for this label. We'll see afterwards what this heading is good for. But here you defined this field in a business context. It's not only the technical description, but a business context. You can also, instead of the domain define, put a predefined type and data type. This is not the elementary, or it's not the ABAP type, which you know from the ABAP report. Here is a little bit different, because here are all the data types which are compatible to the database types, which also depends on your database. So you got here more data elements. For example, you got here the data type client, which is also SAP specific, but you got here also integers in different lengths, some decimals, characters as well, string, and so on. But they are here a little bit different than the typical ABAP types. And what I now want to show you is how we can define a data element, our own data element. For example, if we say, I don't want the material number of 18, I just want that my material number is 15. So we should create a new one. Therefore, I will go back and first of all create a domain. You also have to take care that the name is in a customer namespace, so it has to start with Y or Z. I will take Z and call it Z my material number, and I will call it domain and say create. Give it a description. Take the data type character and put the length of 15, and that's it. I don't want to restrict the value. What I now also got here is the object directory entry, because for every new object which you create in a system, you have to assign it to a package. We want to create a local object, and now I can activate it. So that's it. That's our domain we created. Now I want to create the data element. Sorry. So I have to go here to data type, enter the name of my data element. I will call it Z my mat nr, and I will name it differently so you can see that are two separate objects which are created in the ABAP Dictionary. So I will create the data element now. Yeah, data element, that's right. Give it a description. And now use our new data element, a new domain, sorry, called zmatnrd. Just like that. I also have to maintain the field labels when I check the syntax. Yeah, we'll save it first of all. Object directory entry. We will use the local object. And I got the information that I have to maintain the field labels for the data element. We'll call it just like that. Material number, and the heading should also be material number. Save the thing and activate. And now we got also the data element active. What I now want to do, I want to use this data element in our report. So I will close this session here, and we're now here back in our report. So the first thing is I just want to use instead of the elementary ABAP type, I just want to use our data element, just like that. And nothing has changed. We got everything is the same. We can run our report, and as you can see, everything works the same. But the big difference is we used here our data element. Now I also want to create for our structure and global structure in the ABAP Dictionary. So I will go again to the ABAP Dictionary. And now I want to create here a structure. I said the name of the structure is material data. Just like that, and say create. Now I want to create a structure. Call it material data, and the fields of my structure should be material number, then the keyword type, And now I want to use the data element, Z my material number. And when I press enter, as you can see, the data type, the length, and the description are taken from the data element. Then the second field of in the structure should be the material text. This one here. And what I now want to show you is I don't have to use the data element always, as I can also use a predefined type where I can enter the type directly. So for example, I say it here, it's a character string, length 30, and the description is text. The same for the unit. But the good thing is when I now open the data type value help, as you can see, I got here also an own data type for the unit. And I can say it's 3 long, and that's my material unit. So save the whole thing as a local object. When I now check the syntax, we got only a warning that the enhancement category is missing, but we can ignore this or just maintain the enhancement category. It's here, can be found extras enhancement category, which means how if this structure here can be enhanced and how. If you can say it can be enhanced, but you can restrict it that it can be only be character type or numeric, or just numeric enhanced, or even not at all enhanced. I would say it can't be any more enhanced, and say okay, save the whole thing. Now we got no errors or warnings, so we can activate the thing. And we have now also our structure created in a dictionary. I will copy the name and switch back to our report. So the first thing is I will now replace this one here. I don't want to use the local type anymore, but I want to use the global structure type which we defined in the dictionary. Short check if everything is okay. Okay, fine. So now we go back, and the last thing I want to do is I want to create a table type of the structure. So switch back to the ABAP dictionary. Here we are in our structure. The structure is active. Now we go back, and now I want to name the table type just like that and say create. And the last thing is the table type creation. Give it a description. And as you can see, the line type should be our structure. This one here. We got also here this design that it's a structure type, and I just have to save, activate, and I can use it now. So I close this window here, and here when for my internal table, I don't have to say type table of local type, and not only type table of, but only type of table type, because it's already a table type. And we don't need also the local definition of our structure anymore. So, and we are now, when I check the syntax, everything works fine, and activate. Yeah, so we have replaced everything what we defined local with our global structure and global table types, which we defined in the ABAP dictionary, and used it here in the report. And the big advantage of this is first of all, this single object which you defined in the dictionary, it can be used multiple times, and not only from you, but also from the other users. And especially if you have multiple applications which works with the same data, you want to guarantee that everything or everyone who works, for example, with a material number, works with the technical same field. So to guarantee this, it's better to define also the material number once in the ABAP dictionary, and every program, every application, or every user works with this, which also means that errors can be less errors, but it's also you make these reports or the maintenance of these reports even better, because when for example the length of the material number changes, you only change it once in the ABAP dictionary for this single field, and then every report automatically works with this material number. You don't have to change every report where this material number is used. So I would really recommend you to use also data elements and domains and work with it.